my goodness. See, now what's going on? What about now? Can you guys hear me now? I am having massive technical difficulties, so you guys are going to have to help me tech support this tonight because I don't know what's going on. Can you guys hear me right now? Because I cannot hear myself, and I'm a little bit worried that when our guest Matty Blake joins us at 9:00, that I'm not going to be able to hear him. You guys can hear me loud and clear, everybody says. Okay. I have no idea what's been going on, but I have been in the war room troubleshooting my headphones and my microphone, trying to figure out why I'm not hearing everything. And I don't know what's going on. Welcome to Cocktails in the War Room. I'm Mistress Carrie, and every Tuesday night at 8:30, we all get together here in the War Room, as we've been doing since March 14th of 2020. This is episode 115, if you can believe it. I cannot. So I thank you guys for joining us. If you are new to the War Room, welcome to the family. That's what everybody calls it here in the War Room. And so let us know. If you're new, get into the comments. I want to welcome everybody. Everybody says I sound fine. You can hear me okay. Then I'm just going to go with it. And we're just going to have to figure out what's going to happen with Matty when we connect with him at 9:00. So tonight's War Room, we're going to be a little bit different. Normally, we like to have the guest on first. However, Matty is the host of Drilling Down and Beyond Oak Island, and the Oak Island show is on the History Channel right now. So obviously, he can't be on until after the show is over. As always, my co-host here in the War Room, Wednesday, has become a full-blown psycho here at Wednesday. Come here and say hi to everybody. Say hi. Come here and say hi to everybody. I turned your camera on. I figured out last week I couldn't get the Pug Cam to work. It's just been one technical difficulty after another. I realized that it was a bad cable last week in the War Room, which is why I went, don't chew on my pillows. Hey, psycho. She has been a crazy dog because she hasn't been able to go outside because I don't know if it's snowing where you guys are, but it's snowing here. And she hates the snow. Because her delicate little girly paws don't like getting cold. So she's a little hyper tonight. So she's been tossing the pillows off of the couch while I've been trying to troubleshoot the audio issues here in the War Room. And I'm glad I got the Pug Cam back up. Come here. Let me rub your belly. Stop being a dummy. There you go. There you go. See? For anybody that's new to the War Room, this is what happens. The dog has her own camera. And as you can see from the screen right there, she also has her own Instagram handle. So feel free to follow Wednesday on Instagram. She's approaching 1,000 followers, which is insane. So join the party with Wednesday on Instagram. She doesn't have any thumbs, but somehow she manages to post on Instagram quite often. So Wednesday, where did you go? I want to thank the Cocktails in the War Room sponsor again this week, Latini Creative Solutions at latinicreative.com. If you need any kind of graphic design work, any kind of artwork for your company, looking for new corporate logos or to redesign your website and all of your social media pages and re-image them with artwork, Christine over at Latini Creative Solutions has been working with me through this whole process of starting Bigfoot First Productions, my production company, the Mistress Carrie podcast, Cocktails in the War Room. She's worked on all of my artwork, and she has done an amazing job. So if you're looking for some help with that, she can help you. So we're going to have to do the show a little bit backwards tonight because Matty's going to be on in about 15 minutes or so. We're going to get him via Skype. And crazy snowing, says Eric. Let's see. Yes, snow a few inches, says Thomas. Let's see. 4 inches so far, says Jeff. At least she isn't licking her butt on camera, says Brianna. She's done that. She's also licked my teeth on camera. That's another episode. We'll get to that later. The tooth licker. Let's see. Miss you on the air. Boston Rock isn't the same without you, says William. I appreciate it. I miss it too. Thankfully, we get together every week here in the War Room, and you can also check out the Mistress Carrie podcast. New episodes launch every Wednesday, so there is a new episode coming up at midnight tonight. And then also, for anybody that misses Matty Blake on Cocktails in the War Room tonight, you'll be able to hear the interview as an after-action report on the podcast tomorrow. So let's talk about some stuff that's going on right now. Let's do birthdays first because um, we always like to cheers people in the war room. I'm only, hold on, I'm only halfway through my cocktail making because I was troubleshooting. I want to show you guys my new glass. So we always toast to people's birthdays here in the war room. And I got a toasting glass today. I got this for Christmas from my nieces and my nephews. And I haven't used it in the war room yet, but how cool is this? So if today is your birthday, happy birthday. We always cheers to everybody's birthdays. And today, the late, great Eddie Van Halen. So cheers to Eddie. Also, Anita Baker and Tom Kiefer from Cinderella, all born on this date in history. So if today's your birthday, cheers to you. I'll drink out of my purple Best Aunt Ever cup, which is insulated, and I love it so much. So there you go. I'm doing a little vodka soda tonight. Felt like it. Not sure why. Just had a craving. Ah, fantastic. So happy birthday to everybody that's celebrating a birthday today. Let's do let's do this because you only got a couple weeks left to take care of it. Speaking of our pets, a few weeks ago in the mail call, Canty's Canine Kitchen sent Wednesday a bunch of snacks. And I reached out to them and said, hey, would you do a discount code for everybody in the war room? And they said yes. So it's 15% off everything until Valentine's Day if you use the code Carrie15, and it's cantyscaninekitchen.com. So if you want to get your pets or somebody else's pet a nice Valentine's Day gift or just some awesome, wholesome, real food snacks, you can do it at Canty's Canine Kitchen. So, and if you are a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass holder, you actually get 30% off of everything you buy. So if you don't have a Backstage Pass yet, you should get one, which you can do right here. Couple things to tell you about the Backstage Pass. First of all, you get 30% off of everything at Canty's Canine Kitchen if you're a Backstage Pass holder. You also get $5 off of every Cocktails in the War Room t-shirt until the end of this month if you're a Backstage Pass holder. And also this weekend, I am doing my first Backstage Pass only live stream. It's going to be Saturday night at 7 o'clock. And it's going to be an exclusive first look inside MCHQ, my studio. So if you don't have a Backstage Pass yet, you can get it on Patreon. The links are also just up on mistresscarrie.com, and you can check it out. And as always, I'm still offering up that Mistress Carrie prize pack for whoever gets Backstage Pass number 100. So if you don't have a Backstage Pass yet, now is a really good time to do it because we're going to do the live stream this weekend, and you're getting $5 off of every Cocktails in the War Room shirt. And also, you always get extra special Mistress Carrie deals when you have a Backstage Pass. So get yours right now. Speaking of mail call, I want to show you guys the stuff that I got in the mail call because, like I said, we're going to have Matty Blake join us here in the War Room. Oh, by the way, Michelle says, hey, everyone, I want to thank everybody that's been saying prayers for my friends who are both sick. The husband, Big Norman, is not doing good. He's in the ICU. So let's send some more love out to Big Norman, friends of Michelle here in the War Room, because there are people that are battling some serious health issues right now, as we all know, as we've been riding through this COVID-19 catastrophe together since we started getting together here in the War Room. So, hello, Josh. How are you? Wednesday, come up here. I got presents for you. So the first thing I want to show you guys is I got this letter that says, Dear Mistress Carrie, I hope you enjoy the gifts I've sent to you. I met you 6 years ago at Carlin's Bar in Air. We took a picture together and I hooked you up with chocolate chip cookies. I listen to your podcast every day before work and have learned a lot. Your dog Wednesday is adorable. Your fans, Sherry and Elsa. And Sherry and Elsa sent me some really cool skull stuff. This one, obviously, going in the War Room. This is exactly what the War Room should be. How cool is this? It's Uncle Sam without skin. And then also these skeletons too, which are awesome. I just need to show you guys this real quick. Oh, see, Wednesday, I was just going to come over here. So then the other package that I got has something for Wednesday in it. And hold on. So in this box, there's a card. So you guys can see it. And it says, Carrie, thank you for all you do. I love you. I hope you and your hubby have so much happiness and love. Congrats on the wedding, the podcast, the website, and so much more. I love my merch, and I can't wait to continue this ride with you. Thank you. Love, Danielle and Nick. So, Danielle, thank you so much. I got it today, Wednesday. And I am going to turn the Pug Cam back on Wednesday. Do you know that Danielle sent you a present? This couldn't be more perfect for cocktails in the war room. Wednesday is going full basic bitch tonight. White paws. It says, ain't no laws when you're drinking paws. And then up here it says, ain't no laws when you got 4 paws. I mean, are you kidding me? So hold on. All right, Wednesday. Wednesday, do you want black cherry or natural lime? Let's go with the black cherry first. Come here. Has this got squeakers in it? There it is. Do you want to drink a white paw? Huh? Do you want that? And then here's the lime one. Danielle, I don't know where you found these, but they are freaking hilarious. Give me that. Give me that. White paws. Give me that. I should have had a White Claw tonight so that Wednesday and I could be dual basic bitching tonight. For anybody that's new to the war room, this is literally half the show. It's just Wednesday. With her, that's why she has her own camera, because I can't possibly like put all this in one screen. So can you hear her and her viciousness? It's ridiculous. Hey. Rah. All right, so while Wednesday is drinking her white paws, there's a couple other things. What? Here. She dropped the black cherry one under the coffee table. She also sent me Harry Potter Pez. Wednesday, stop dropping your toys under the coffee table, which is unbelievable. I don't have this one yet, so thank you. For anybody that doesn't know, I have quite an extensive here. Pez collection, which when you guys find ones I don't have, Wednesday, seriously, you can't, this is why we can't have nice things. Here, go get it. Go over there. There she goes. So when you guys find Pez dispensers that I don't have, it makes me giddy because I have a whole collection. This one I thought was really cool. So this came from Christmas Pez, and it's the 12 Days of Christmas. In Pez. Look at this. How cool is this? And it's got like 7 swans a singing and partridge in a pear tree, like on the Pez, which I absolutely love. So thank you guys. And Wednesday, here. Come here. Drink your white paws. Rawr. Dual bitches activate. Harry Potter Pez. I know, Katie. Aren't they cool? I freaked out when I opened the box today because, as you are very well aware, I can't wait until Cocktails in the War Room to open the packages you guys send because I'm a child and I don't have any patience and I hate surprises. So I open them sometimes in the car outside of the post office because I can't wait. And then do you guys see what I'm dealing with here? Wednesday. Oh my God. So thank you guys so much. I absolutely love everything that's come in the war room. You guys are amazing. And obviously you spoil Wednesday rotten, which I totally appreciate. I think anyone that is a parent or a grandparent, it's like you don't need anything. You just want your kid to get spoiled. Well, that's how I am with my dog. As pathetic as that sounds, but William says bag of dicks are better. I can't argue with that. But I'm dickless right now. Again, I apologize if you're new to Cocktails in the War Room. You can watch episodes and you'll understand what that means. So anyway, there's the address for the mail call. And thank you guys so much for just always surprising me with the coolest stuff. I look forward to getting the mail. I mean, when's the last time you like ran to the mailbox? But I look forward to getting the mail because it's just been this little joy from the War Room, is like the surprises, the little things that you guys send, which is not necessary, but I just love all of the cool little things. And people always ask me, like, where do you get this stuff? And I'm like, people send it to me and I don't know where they find it, but they're amazing. Let's talk about some music headlines really fast because Matty Blake is going to join us in a few minutes. System of a Down is doing a live stream this weekend. They're doing it as a fundraiser for prosthetics and some other treatments and medical supplies for over 1,000 Armenian soldiers that have been injured in the recent wars and conflicts in Armenia. So System of a Down has scheduled a live stream, which is going to happen on Saturday. Three Doors Down has announced 3 live streams. They're going to do one that is, I believe, A Better Life, the album in its entirety as a full band. Then they're going to do a Greatest Hits acoustic live stream 2 weeks later. And then 2 weeks after that, they're going to do a full band Greatest Hits plugged in live stream. All of the live streams that I talk about here in the War Room are all up on the events calendar on mistresscarrie.com. I've been really trying to make sure that all of the live streams that are coming up are listed up on the events calendar with the links and how much they cost and the details on who else is going to be on them, because we can't go to real shows right now. And I want to help support the bands as much as I can and also give you guys something to watch. So check out mistresscarrie.com, go to the events calendar, and all of the concerts are up there. The Foo Fighters, getting ready to celebrate Medicine at Midnight, have a line of vans coming out, which are really cool. The album is set to coincide with the 25th anniversary of the debut album of the Foo Fighters, which, in case you're keeping track, qualifies the Foo Fighters for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is insane that Dave Grohl, before he's 55, could be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame not once but twice. So that is, those are coming out the first week of February, those vans. And also leading up to the release of Medicine at Midnight, the Foo Fighters are also going to have Foo Fighters Radio on Sirius XM. So if you have Sirius XM, you'll be able to check out the Foo Fighters channel. It's going to be just a limited thing. They're not going to keep up the channel all the time, but they're launching it to celebrate their 25th anniversary. The guys in the Deftones are continuing their partnership with the Belching Beaver, which is a brewery in California, and they have announced another beer collaboration, which is Ohm's Pale Ale, which of course is named after the Deftones' latest album, Ohms, which came out in 2020, and it is fantastic. So if you haven't tried that yet, it's a little bit harder to find here on the East Coast, but I believe you can pull some strings if you've got friends on the West Coast, and you can get some of that Deftones beer, especially if you are a collector of Rockstar beers, of which there are many. Obviously, over the weekend, we got the sad news that Larry King passed away at the age of 87. They estimate in his 60-year career that he did over 50,000 interviews, which I cannot believe. STP has said that they are going to reissue Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop, to commemorate its 25th anniversary. There are many interviews in the past where Scott Weiland was quoted as saying that this is his favorite Stone Temple Pilots album. So there is going to be a reissue, just like they did with Purple and Core, and Tiny Music is getting the reissue treatment. And very recently, Mike Mangini from Dream Theater came out on his Facebook page saying that he just completed the drum tracks for the new Dream Theater record. Now, there's no details on what it's going to be called or when we're going to be able to get it, but we know that it's in the works because he just finished cutting all the drum tracks for it, which is amazing. And obviously, if you were watching football over the weekend, you know that the Super Bowl is going to have Tom Brady in it. Again, not in a Patriots uniform for the first time. He's now the NFC champion. And before the Super Bowl, Miley Cyrus is going to do a pregame TikTok show. There's supposed to be special guests and all kinds of other stuff. So that's one of the things that they are doing for the Super Bowl, because obviously there's not going to be as many people in the stands. And I thought it was pretty interesting that they were incorporating TikTok into it. So there you go. Cheers to Tom Brady. I hate seeing you in another uniform, but at 43 years old, going to your 10th Super Bowl, kind of hard to deny the GOAT, you know? Okay. I want to remind you guys that we are 98 countries and going strong for the Mistress Carrie podcast, which is amazing. And I can't wait to tell you who is going to be on this week's podcast, because I think you guys are going to love this episode. You can get the Mistress Carrie podcast in all of these places and more. Now that I'm an official member of the Pantheon Podcast Network, we should have the Mistress Carrie podcast on about 60 podcast outlets and growing. So you can basically just search the Mistress Carrie podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and you should be able to find it. And also try to get your smart speakers to work as well. Not only do you get the weekly episodes, but you also get every weekday, you get a situation report. The sit rep is everything you need to know in rock news, music headlines, entertainment updates in under 5 minutes every weekday. It goes live at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So even if you work super early in the morning, you can get a sit rep and find out everything you need to know while you're sitting at the drive-thru waiting for your coffee. So all you have to do is just click subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast, and you get everything. You get the sit reps. Like I said, tomorrow, Matty Blake is going to be up as an after action report, because he's going to join us any minute now. And then you get the full episodes. Now, next or this episode, actually, I want to tell you who's on the podcast this week before we get to Matty. Tonight at midnight, episode 34 goes live, and it is Tyler Connolly from Theory of a Dead Man. Tyler and I had an unbelievable conversation. We talked about everything from doomsday prepping to dick pics and everything in between. We had a blast. Tyler hosts a podcast with Dave from Theory of a Dead Man that they call Band Meeting. And so there were times in the interview where Tyler actually started interviewing me, which was really weird. But we talk about all kinds of stuff, everything that's going on with Theory of a Dead Man, what he's been doing through the pandemic, shows, touring, old AAF memories. We had a really good time. So coming up tonight at midnight, episode 34 of the Mistress Carrie podcast features Tyler Connolly, the lead singer of Theory of a Dead Man. And I am super excited for you guys to hear this episode. We had a really good time. He also promised to come on Cocktails in the War Room in the near future, which I'm going to take him up on, and was also like, listen, I'll come on your podcast whenever. We had such a good time. So he might end up coming on fairly often because we had such a good time. Obviously, last week's episode was episode 33, and it features Matty Blake. Now, I am going to try and connect with Matty. See if I can get him. He told me to call him at 9 o'clock. I know I'm a little late, Matty. Come on, Matty. Really? All right. I don't know why he's not picking up. Let me see if I can. Matty is unavailable, Skype says. Interesting. Matty. I'm going to try him back in a minute. Let me see if he messaged me. I turned my phone off during the show because, well, that's what you should do. And, oh, Matty's active now. Hold on. Let's try him again. Matty.
You hear and see me?
I can't see you.
All right, stand by.
I can hear you, though. You guys got to let me know because we've been having some technical difficulties. Can you guys hear Matty? Joshua says he's not there because he's an ass. Mark Bishop says shower beers. Can you guys see and hear Matty? Are we good?
Check.
The
Matty
number you reached has now been disconnected. No. You're good. I can see you and I can hear you. Yes.
Great.
Tracy says hear him but not see him now. Okay, cool. Matty,
right.
welcome
Hi.
to Cocktails in the War Room.
I'm glad to be here with you. Thank you.
I was getting a little nervous that you might have forgotten. Normally we have the guest on early in the show, but I know because of Oak Island you wanted to wait. I told everybody in the War Room already what the
Thank you.
reservation was, is that you don't want to compete with your own show.
Yeah, it's a little bad and I've started live tweeting during the Beyond episodes, and I think history kind of likes that. So I wanted to keep that going too.
So for anybody that doesn't know, that's here in the War Room, anybody that doesn't know, Matty and I worked at WAF multiple times together over the years. He used to host afternoons with Rocco and then came back and was on Matty and Nick. And then all the while, you've been doing other stuff. You're a stand-up comic. We talked a lot about it in episode 33 of the podcast. But you ended up on this Oak Island journey, and now there's spin-offs to the spin-offs. So originally there was The Curse of Oak Island.
Correct.
And then Drilling Down is the companion show, which is the show that you host. So what's the difference between The Curse of Oak Island and Drilling Down for anybody that hasn't watched it?
Yeah, so real quick, like Drilling Down was basically Talking Dead is for Walking Dead, right? And so I did that for 5 seasons, basically. The main show, The Curse of Oak Island, has gotten so huge that it has now spawned a spinoff called Beyond Oak Island. So Oak Island is its own treasure hunt story. It's a real story going on. It's a real life treasure hunt. Beyond Oak Island is us looking at other treasure mysteries around the world, because what started to happen, Carrie, is people started presenting to me and to Rick and to Marty and producers like, hey, I've got this thing. I think there's treasure in my town. I've been searching it for years. I've got 20 years of research. So we're getting all these messages going, well, this could be a show. You know what I mean? So, and it has become one. So we got nailed by COVID. We only got 8 episodes in season 1, but I'm very confident there's going to be a season 2 of Beyond Oak Island, and we'll tell more treasure stories.
People are commenting on your very cool studio lighting. Kevin Barbary had very cool mood lighting in his studio. When he joined us here in the War Room, he had like this cool purple lighting. And so people are commenting on your big, sexy lighting that you have in there as well.
Well, I got to thank my 15-year-old son, Max. This is that LED lighting that kids have in their rooms now.
Oh, it's like on a ribbon, right?
Strip. Yes.
Yeah.
He got some for Christmas. He had some left over. So I brought it down to my studio and I control it with my phone. So I can actually, hold on.
Oh my God.
As we talk.
This is what Kevin Barbary was doing too. It just goes to show you guys that it doesn't matter. See, that's what Kevin was doing. Like you get all these colors. It just goes to show you, it doesn't matter how different everyone was that was at AAF. We were all very different people with different things, but there are so many similarities that brought us all together, and you're proving it right now. Kevin Barber would be so proud of your in-studio lighting.
You know, I have a funny Kevin Barbary story. Well, I have many. Most I would never tell here. But I met him, again, we alluded to this on the podcast. Like I knew Greg Hill before Greg was famous.
Yeah.
Because he was my brother's friend. And I remember being at one of Greg's parties and I hadn't met Kevin. Kevin had just started working with Greg. It was like when he flew out here to do the show,
came
basically.
Up from like North Carolina,
North
right?
Carolina.
Yeah.
And he was doing an impression, which I've stolen over the years many times. He was in the corner of the room. And I wonder if Kevin would remember this, actually. He was doing Harrison Ford in the movie, when he's the prisoner, the remake, Man with One Arm. You know, The Fugitive.
The Fugitive, yeah. Otherwise, there's like a 10-second delay in the comments, and then like 5 seconds, people are going to be like, the fucking Fugitive, Carrie. What are you and Matty on dope?
Sorry.
What are you doing? Yeah.
So he's in the corner doing, as you can imagine Kevin only doing, he's doing the exchange, but he's doing both voices of the guy going.
Which he was amazing that he could do both characters in a conversation at the same time and switch back and forth like it was nothing.
Amazing. So he's like doing the French doctor, like, Richard, my friend. And he's like, there was a man with a prosthetic arm. You find that man. And I'm going like, oh my God, he sounds exactly like them. And I just like gravitated over to him in the corner and we were like best buds, like doing voices and doing our whole thing. So
he came on the podcast and on Cocktails in the War Room. And, you know, I love the fact also that all of us have these amazing like home studios now. Do you have a name for yours? Because you know I call
I
mine
do.
MCHQ. What do you call yours?
Matty Road Studios. I even have, I don't have I'm not good with technology really, but someone took a Photoshop of the Beatles crossing Abbey Road and they took out George's face and put my face in it. So that's like my avatar of my Matty Road Studios.
Have you ever gone to England? Have you ever gone to London and crossed Abbey Road?
I haven't done it.
Okay, so I did it, I think, like 7 years ago. And it's really strange, right? So there were some British soldiers that I met in Afghanistan, and they had always said, like, if you ever come to England or whatever, like, let us know, we'll hook you up. So one of them, him and his wife, picked me up at the airport. I had a 14-hour layover in London, and they were like, we're going to take you around London all day. So we got a day pass for the tube or the underground, whatever they call it. And we just ran around London. And I had this whole list of what I wanted to do. And I was like, guys, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to make you do the Abbey Road thing. Like, you don't have to do it, but I want to do it, so you have to take me. Yeah. We got off at that stop. And even like all the tchotchkes, the little stand at that stop of the underground is all Beatles stuff. Sure. And then you come around and it's like a residential like neighborhood. And the corner where that crosswalk is a little harrowing. Like, it's a little dangerous. And this busy. Was really early on a Sunday morning.
Huh.
Because I had taken the red eye, basically. I had left Boston late night or whatever. And then by the time I got there, it was really early in the morning. And people like coming home from church, like, don't give a fuck. Like, they are so sick of people being in that crosswalk. You would think they would stop and let you take it. No. There were dozens of people waiting in line to take pictures in the crosswalk first thing on a Sunday morning. And then Abbey Road Studios is right there at the intersection.
Sure.
And the whole stucco wall outside of the studio, people just write all over it. So of course I'm like, Mistress Carrie was here on the wall at Abbey Road Studios. And then there were these guys with acoustic guitars. It was like a band, and they were doing acoustic versions of Beatles songs a cappella, like out on the street. And it was this amazing vibe because everybody that was there for the same reason, because they just love the Beatles.
I love it.
So you have to, because I know what a big Beatles fan you are.
Yeah.
You have to just go. I have the picture of like me. Of course, I was by myself, so I'm like walking across Abbey Road and so I took pictures signing the studio. And it's really cool to just go there. And recently, on the Sit Rep, which is the headline podcast that I do, Paul McCartney's daughter, the one that he had with Linda, is actually doing a documentary on Abbey Road Studios.
Oh,
and
wow.
She's going to put the documentary together, which I cannot wait to see. And the whole history of the studio and everything, just the people that have recorded there. Nuno Betancourt was on the podcast recently, and he talked about recording in those studios and just legendary.
It's funny. I took my son Max when he was younger in my New York City years. I took him because he's become a huge Beatles fan. And I took him to, the Dakota building. And then we crossed the street at 73rd, I guess. And it's where
the Strawberry Fields and the
exactly,
Imagine Memorial
the
is.
Imagine. Yeah. And he said to me, he goes, I don't like it, Daddy. I don't like it because I didn't even do the math. It's where Lennon was killed. And Max knew that. I explained it to him. And he goes, I don't like being here. I was like, wow. He was so sensitive at that age to this, hero band of his and the guy getting shot there. And I didn't even think about at his age, that would be disturbing to him.
Weird.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you look at any kind of memorial, right? You look at the amazing memorial and the museum at Ground Zero. And on one hand, it's breathtaking and beautiful and all of those things. But on the other hand, you're literally standing on the ground where it happened.
Yeah.
And there's like a mix of emotion there because it's where, like when you go to a cemetery to go visit a loved one, it's not where they died.
Right.
So it's like this place where you're just going to visit them. But when you go to a memorial that's on the ground where it happened, I can totally see how Max would.
Yeah, he kind of.
That was weird.
Well, it's powerful moments like the Titanic. And then you could have a producer just go and go,
then you could have Stiz, who's been in Cocktails in the War Room as well, be like, I touched the Titanic, yo!
I remember him outside we had a great trip, Nick, me and him in Vegas. It was one of the highlight memories of my time, that second time at AF. And he's got like the sweatpants pulled up, over his shins, like he does that thing, and he's like ripping butts outside the casino. And he's like, yo, I touched the Titanic. I'm like, don't say another word. We're talking about this on the air. We're talking about this on the air tomorrow.
Oh my God. Producer Mike says, can't wait to see the Peter Jackson doc, all of that unreleased video footage coming on Disney Plus.
Trailer looks incredible.
Producer Mike, by the way, is Mike Saya, who came to Afghanistan with me, that used to work for us with us at Entercom.
Awesome.
Let's see. Terrence says, I want to see Abbey Road, Better Sea Power Station, Astoria, David Gilmour's houseboat, Britannia Row Studios. Like, there's a whole, you could literally just be a travel agency and just specialize in like music tourism. Seriously,
that's a great idea,
actually. For nerd people like us that like want to really, like, that's why I love the Sonic Highways documentary that the Foo Fighters did. Remember that record that they did?
Yes.
And it was like on HBO, and it was every track of that record got made in a legendary recording studio around the country.
On the board, he had like the soundboard used, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And collaborated with famous musicians from that town. And like, that is still one of my favorite albums of all time, because it was so historically interesting to see them working in these studios and to hear the outside influence of other artists on what the Foo Fighters would sound like.
Yes.
Just really cool.
Incredible. Incredible. That history is just awesome.
Let's see. Sean says, I took a day trip to the 9/11 memorial on 9/11/2011, and I had a wicked migraine at the time. It was pretty rough. Like, people talking about like going and visiting these places, it can have a profound effect on you. Physically, it can affect you, Ed says, I met Matty years back when he was on the radio with Rocco, so he says hello.
Hi.
Amanda says, that's a great idea. I would dig that. Travel for music places only. A lot of New Yorkers don't and won't go to the memorial. Still too painful, says Melissa. Brianna agrees with me that was a great album from the Foo Fighters. So one of the reasons that I love having people that were on the podcast come into the War Room is that everybody's had a week now to listen to your episode. And as good of a job, using the bunny air quotes, that I think that I do in my interviews with people, I know that when people listen to the podcast episodes, it always leaves them with questions that I didn't ask. And so I love it when people come in the War Room, because just like the text line that we had in the AAF studio, I can get these messages from everybody that's joining me in the War Room right now in real time so that they can ask questions. So if you guys have questions for Matty, if you have questions that I didn't ask in the podcast, if you want him to elaborate more on stuff with Oak Island or any of the other paranormal stuff that he loves. Did you see that the Lizzie Borden Inn is for sale? $2 million price tag. Talk about like tourism for places that would skeeve you out to go. Like, you literally, a bed and breakfast where a pair of grisly murders took place historically. Like, creepy.
Yeah. That's not far from me where I am, by the way, in Fall River. Yeah, that's actually, that's another place Stiz went to and broke rules of what they asked you not to do. He did something, I can't remember what it was, but he went there. He's like, yo, I went there, and we like whatever he did. He took a picture in the wherever he wasn't supposed to be.
Melissa wants to know if I was able to fix all of the echo problems from your episode. No, there was still, can still hear it a little bit if you listen to the episode. I was able to get most of it out, but there's a few places where there was this weird echo. And you and I were talking about it when we recorded the episode, that there was like this phantom echo that I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. So no, Melissa, but I got your email about it and I appreciate it. Atwood says, oh, it's Atwood. I went to high school with him. Hi. When I first moved to San Antonio, I was taken on a tour of the Selena shrines around town, and it was awesome. Talk about music tourism. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, where would you like to go, Carrie? Like, I would like to see, I can never say it. What's the mansion where Led Zeppelin recorded that? Bonnier? I can't say it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they recorded that record. I'd love to go stand in, because in the documentary, It Might Get Loud, Paige goes back there and stands in the little room where John Bonham laid down the drum lick to when the levee breaks.
Which is one of the greatest.
Oh, can you imagine standing there?
That song may have the greatest kick drum in recorded rock and roll. Like John Bonham's kick drum in that song is perfect. It's literally perfect.
Oh my God.
There's
Maybe
so many of those studios too. Like, didn't Trent Reznor rent out the mansion where the La Bianca murders took place, the Manson murders, and they recorded there?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Incredible.
and I don't
Incredible.
think they knew that. They just, like, if you look at, I think there was an interview or something with Trent Reznor about the downward spiral. Like, I don't think they realized that that's what that house was. And then they found out afterwards and they were like, okay, fuck it. And it, like, I think Slipknot might have recorded there as well.
Holy God.
Matty, do you think that is really on Oak Island for Treasure, Aztecs? Like, Amanda wants to know what you think.
I mean, I've come to the belief, and I might have said this in the podcast, so forgive me if I'm being repetitive, but I've come to the belief that it's not what we call temporal wealth, that it's not gold, silver, although that might have been buried by people subsequently who, when Oak Island got the reputation it got as being a place where there's treasure, it makes sense that people might hide treasure there. But you're talking historically, when people hide temporal wealth like that, it's 10 feet, maybe. Right? You know where it is. You're not going to dig any more than 10 feet. Try to dig a hole 10 feet. It's hard.
Yeah, and
right?
do it 400 years ago.
Correct.
When you didn't have a bulldozer to help you.
Correct. Based on some of the clues this team has found and the depth and massiveness of the works, I believe it is something to do with either a cultural group of documents or a religious artifact from antiquity. That's what I'm convinced of. And I have that's all I'll say.
Terrence and a bunch of other people have said Headley Grange, which is this where you're talking about.
Thank you.
And Richard Fitz Jr. says that the drum room there is all about the height of the room, which is why the drums sounded so good.
Yes, that's what Paige was saying.
Are so smart.
Way to go, people.
Brianna says, I wonder if they are keeping Lizzie's other house. Those owners have both of their houses. I don't know.
Interesting.
The other Brianna says the new Night Stalker documentary on Netflix is fucking insane. So good. I know basic white girl like the serial killer documentaries. Actually, what's really funny is that Tyler Connolly from Theory of a Dead Man and I, because he's on this week's episode, talked about the Night Stalker documentary in our interview this week. So it's really funny that you brought that up. Penny says, I saw it. One of the few that really wigged me out, talking about the Night Stalker. Let's see. Rebecca says, I've really enjoyed following Oak Island. Sean says, Geraldo thought there was something at Al Capone's vault also. That's the one thing about Matty is that you've always been very headstrong in your beliefs. And you also allow yourself to get your balls busted about it. And you don't care. Like, it doesn't bother you. We used to like wreak havoc on you on the daily at the radio station. And you're just like, whatever, man, it's not going to make me not believe it.
Well, I mean, like, isn't that one of the greatest sayings of all time is take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. Right. Yeah. Like I'm earnest. You know, we talked about it again on the podcast, not to be repetitive, but it's like, my enthusiasm is all real. I got the job because one of the requirements was that you love this type of stuff.
Right.
And so it's real. Like when I go like, holy crap, you found that, like, that's all real. And I think it translates, but it's like, I don't care. I don't think that I'm anything like, as soon as you start taking yourself too seriously, I think that shows up on camera too. And people are just go click.
Danielle wants to know what's the best place that you've seen paranormal activity. Cause you've gone to a lot of like crazy places and
yeah.
You know, I mean, outside of Oak Island, obviously, because some of the things that you've seen there.
Yeah, Oak would be the answer, but I'll try a non-Oak answer, and that is I went to a Bigfoot conference. I spoke at a Bigfoot conference.
Of course you did.
And it was in Salt Fork, Ohio, at a huge convention center where there's been tons of it's a very squatchy country.
How many people were in Ohio at a Sasquatch convention?
Hundreds.
Besides
I don't know how
people.
Oh yeah. They take, one guy said to me, and a lot of guys say this, but one guy said to me one day, I said, well, you're a believer. He said, no, I'm an experiencer. I'm not a believer. And he got really intense. And this is a military guy too. He told one of the greatest stories that night. He told a story about his son. So this guy was a non-believer, worked in the woods, had a sighting. And it changed his life. It fundamentally changed his life. And he's like, it's cost me. It's cost me money. It's cost me friends. It's cost me
Because people think
relationships.
he's crazy.
Yes. And he just won't stop. And they're like, will you stop going out in the woods on the weekends? He's like, no. So his son was one of the kind of non-believers. And I won't go into it, but he told this story about his son who was in the National Guard, had a weekend off. They went on a squat, and he goes, and we saw one go right up the ridge, right by us. He goes, and my son, who's this big, tough 21-year-old National Guard, he said he went just like this. And he went in on himself and wouldn't move. He wouldn't move on the path. He went into shock. And he's like, we had to push him down the path. And he said, and ever since that day, he wants nothing to do with it. But he'll say, Dad, you were right. I doubted.
The shit out of him.
It scared. He couldn't move. He went. And when he told that story at night in the woods at Salt Fork Ranch, I was like, what are we doing? But we saw some weird stuff. We felt we were being tracked. And we saw anomalous lights. We saw an orange orb, which my former partner, Ronnie Blank, will tell you is very common. It's split off into two red lights that look like eyes. Now, this is in the deep forest. If we went back the next day to see, and if anyone had been back there with like night vision goggles or something, we would have heard it because you couldn't even put your hand in front of your face without hitting branches and making noise. This thing was going like at about our eye level taller and just cutting across us, these weird lights. So if anyone could tell me what that was, I'd be
Gina says, oh my God, Vanessa needs to go to that conference. So one of my neighbors is a Sasquatch fanatic. like her kids buy her Sasquatch PJs, and like she's one of those people. And you were just talking about Ronnie LeBlanc.
Yeah.
He's from Leominster and wrote a book called Monsterland about an area in Leominster that has a history of paranormal activity. And you've come to Leominster multiple times and gone and seen. So that's where I was born and raised, obviously. So what kind of weird stuff have you seen in my hometown?
We had some weird events in the Monsterland forest. One of which I know, I swear to God, this sounds like a movie or something, but if I didn't live through it, I wouldn't believe it either. But we were on a day hike just to get the lay of the land to figure out maybe where we would go squatching one day. I'm with 3 really experienced dudes. One's a former park ranger, and Ronnie knows those woods like anything. And we got caught in afterwards, we didn't realize it at the time. It wasn't like lost time like UFO people describe, but in a sense, it kind of was. It was a very Blair Witchy thing. We kept going in circles. And at a certain point, it was getting cold. It was winter time. It was freezing anyway. It was getting dark. And I go, hey guys, like, you're the experts. And the park ranger guy's going like, he was laughing, but he was like scared. He's like, I don't know what's going on. This is weird. We got lost in Monsterland and we saw some weird tree bends and we all had a weird feeling. And we were in the truck that night. Everyone kind of got quiet and like no one was laughing about it. We were like, that was, I don't know what happened. Like Ronnie's been back there. He knew exactly where we were. And yet we kept kind of circling. It was very bizarre.
Monsterland is a place, like it's been called that since my parents were in high school and earlier than that, because it was a place that for decades people have talked about the weird stuff that happened in that area, which is, I mean, that's why they call it Monsterland, because it's weird out there.
Sure is.
People are talking about the, is it the Danvers State Hospital?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The mental hospital. Yeah. Very haunted.
The Freetown Triangle.
Yeah. And the Bridgewater Triangles are big. They're doing a scripted TV show about the Bridgewater Triangle. Well, loosely based on it. It's a scripted show, but, and all the high strangeness there. That's a lot of weird stuff.
That's what William's talking about, the Bridgewater Triangle right now.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
To go back to Oak Island, because we talked about it a little bit in the podcast, but and you talked about, do you have your cross on?
I do.
Can you show everybody the cross that we talked about in the podcast?
Yeah, great idea. I never not wear it, if that tells you anything. So this is a replica of what we call now, some people, we call it Drayton's cross, because Gary Drayton is the metal detector that found it. So what's unique about this item, the real one is bigger than this. It's about that much bigger and that much wider.
Looks like something Tobias Forge from Ghost would wear. Or Ozzy. Yeah.
The real one's made of lead. It's super heavy. This is just a silver replica. It's an exact replica, but it's smaller. And what makes it unique, again, I'll do this in 30 seconds, but what makes it unique is that the Knights Templar were long rumored to be involved with the Oak Island treasure, but it was something that seems so outlandish. First of all, we don't know for sure that Knights Templar could have come here, even though there's evidence that Vikings might have come here a long, long time ago.
Especially
There's
in
no
that part of like Nova Scotia where it would have been one of the first pieces of land you hit
correct.
crossing the Atlantic.
Correct. So long story short, it all seems like kind of fantasy and fun. And it's like, well, what would the Knights Templar be hiding? And then this team finds human bones of Middle Eastern descent that are very old. And then this team finds parchment paper and leather bookbinding at depth, 160 feet at depth. And that one expert said, this is of a very important medieval document. This would have been this type of paper and this type of leather bookbinding, if that's what it is, what I think it is, it would be for something very special. And with that as the backdrop, this guy, Gary Drayton, finds this lead cross on the beach. This almost exact cross is carved into the wall in a Templar prison in Dome, France. They test the lead of this cross that was found on Oak Island. It comes from a 14th century mine, a mine that closed in the 14th century. And that's where the lead came from, right near the prison, the Templar prison in Dome, France. So yes, you could say it's all coincidence. Yes, you could say someone dropped the Templar cross there at some point, I guess. It's authentically old. It's been tested. But to me, that was just proof of what I had begun to suspect, that it was something involving a religious artifact. And when they found that, to me, it was just, and then everyone said it's going to turn out to be a replica or postmodern or not old. And I just knew in my heart and my bones, I'm like, this thing is special. And Gary, the guy who found it, was an expert in medieval artifacts because he treasure hunted in England all those years. He goes, no, mate, this is old. You watch. And when the testing came back, it was like, I felt like I won the lottery. I was like, yes, Templar, baby.
So we talked about this in the podcast a little bit about treasure hunters, and we talked about the Titanic and how somebody's got to pay this expensive cost of all this excavation and all of this treasure hunting. And obviously people do it not only for the bragging rights. If you are like James Cameron helped, the guy that made Titanic, helped to fund the explorers that found the Titanic. So it's like when you're rich the way that he is from the Terminator movies and all that stuff, it's like a badge of honor that you go down in the history books, but also how much money those wrecks are worth, how much money these treasures are worth. If you find a Spanish sunken ship with millions and millions of dollars of gold in it and all of that stuff, like there's definitely money to be made. So this guy that you're talking about, what was his name again? The guy that found the cross?
Gary Drayton, the metal detector.
Okay, so Gary finds this cross. Does he get to keep it? Does he own it? Who owns it? And then how do they test it without destroying it?
Yeah, so they did something called laser ablation, a term I never thought I'd know, but for this job.
It sounds like something they do at the spa. They do like ablations, like skin ablations for women at the spa.
Wait, didn't they open up Ozfest for us in like 96, laser ablation?
Dude, they're definitely, Mike Shue always has a joke on Twitter about a band, if like a fake band name and whether they played upstairs or downstairs at the Middle East. I think Laser Ablation definitely played downstairs, but I digress. So go ahead.
They got signed in the 90s. So yeah, basically it's a process by which they kind of use a laser to just take the most minimal sample that you can possibly take, called laser ablation. And that's how they tested it basically. But okay, so Gary doesn't
like it. It's not specific. Like if you can't give up like trade secrets about Oak Island, it's more of like who owns it when you find a treasure. Like how does it get decided?
Yeah. So there's something called the Treasure Trove Act. Because you really can't hunt for treasure in Canada. So because of the historical importance and cultural importance of Oak Island to that area, they have worked out a deal with the treasure hunters, the modern day treasure hunters now on Oak Island, Rick and Marty Lagina and their team. Rick and Marty Lagina own virtually everywhere they search. If they don't own that part of the island, they have an agreement with the person who does, because people own lots. They own most of it, so they can dig as they want. Now, there's an archaeologist on scene. He's become part of the team. His name is Laird Niven. He's basically the eyes of the state, if you will. And here's how it breaks down. If they find gold or silver or something like treasure, they can actually keep that. Rick and Marty can keep that. If it's something of cultural significance, like what they believe is an archaeological site, all work must stop. And Laird has to come in and say, okay, we need to stop digging. We need
like
to excavate this archaeologically.
Or
yes. Or even an old house. Yes. So the government almost cares more about that than treasure, you know? Now part of their agreement is they give a lot of artifacts to the government and it goes on display in their interpretive center, their museum, if you will. So like you can go, there's an Oak Island Interpretive Center on Oak Island. When you get there, it's in the parking lot. You can see the cross on display
Oh, that's where it
under
is?
glass.
Because I was
Uh-huh.
going to ask
Uh-huh.
you where it
Uh-huh.
was.
Yeah. So it goes to, the greater good of the Oak Island team, because it creates interest and things like that. But yeah,
Tourism.
if Rick and Marty pull up a treasure chest of gold, they can keep what they want and give what they want. I think the state gets a percentage of that. But it's theirs. It's their land.
What else besides the cross and like you were just talking about it, like those pieces of paper and that like the leather bound book, what else has come out of there that's made you go, holy shit?
Yeah, like pottery, very ornate pottery at depth. The human bones were huge because what are they doing under there? Especially Middle Eastern human bones, one male, one female. Um, Even the wood, everyone always jokes like, oh, they're pulling up more wood on Oak Island, but the wood tells the story. That's the process. So it's like, what are giant pieces of beam that predate the finding of the money pit in 1795? What are those doing at depth? You know what I mean? So like you're going down and you're finding wood and you can date it.
Right. It's
And
carbon dating, right? Is that
yeah,
what they call it? Yeah.
yes, and dendrochronology you can do. If there's rings, you can date it that way. But you're seeing wood that is post discovery of the money pit. There's searcher. These are searchers who are down there and we're finding their remnants. But when you start to pull up stuff that predates that, you go, all right, this could be the original depositors. There's something called the Chapel Vault. This is the last thing I'll say that was so exciting. And this is before my time, but they hit with a drill. So they're at depth. Oak Island nuts are going to kill me on this. I want to say 165, I think was the depth. I could be wrong on that. I have a lot of depths in my head. Maybe 195, 165. Anyway, they hit, they're going through earth. They're bringing up core samples. They hit wood, very old wood, a layer of cement, a layer of fiber. Like I think it was coconut fiber. I think that might have been coconut fiber too, but I'm not sure. There's coconut fiber found on the beach at Smith's Cove. And then it drops a few feet as if it hit a void. And they pull the drill bit up. It's got gold flecks on it. So if you can think about it, they basically hit a box, wood, cement. It drops, meaning they hit a void. And then at the bottom of the void, it comes up with gold flecks on it. So they try to get that box. They call it the Chapel Vault now they think they just pushed it further underground because everything flooded.
Oh.
And they couldn't get to everything. But that existed. That was a discovery. So it's like that Chapel Vault is down there somewhere. So this team has pulled up things that they go, is this Chapel Vault? Oh my God, I've been there on site when they're like, this is like what is this wood? And like, are we on the Chapel Vault right now? And your heart rate just, I get the chills just thinking about it. The possibility of this team pulling up something like that. It's one of these days, any one of those core samples could pull it up.
Now, how far do you go with, there's a lot of talk about conspiracy theories right now because, people, depending on what side of the political spectrum you're on, and you talk about QAnon and kind of all of this stuff. So there has been a lot of talk in mainstream media about conspiracy theorists and what is it that attracts people to conspiracies and what makes you believe them. So how far does your conspiracy theory spectrum go? Like, did we really land on the moon? Was JFK assassinated by the Cubans or the mob? Like, was it a cover up? Was Johnson in on it? Like, there's a lot. There's a lot there.
God, you're such a great interviewer. I've never been asked that question. And I don't think of things in terms of conspiracy theories like that because I'm a very non-political person. And those usually, the phrase conspiracy theory kind of connotes politics almost a little bit, right?
Yeah, and it's not meant to be a political conversation. So I'll give you an example. Last year I went to Dallas.
Yep.
And I went with a bunch of friends. It was just always a place talking about going to a place where a grisly murder happened, right? A tourist place.
Yeah.
And I went to Dealey Plaza.
Been there. Done it.
And it's a lot smaller and more compact than I think I get. Like just from the Zapruder films and the images, the historical images that we have, I couldn't believe how much smaller it was in person.
Yes.
There's the blocks on the street, which is very morbid about when the bullets actually hit JFK before they went under the underpass.
Yes, they have like a thing right on the street, like a peg in there.
I took a picture, like standing in the box, and as I'm doing it, like everybody was doing it, but as I'm doing it, I felt weird doing it because I was like, this is where someone died. Like, this is where our president was assassinated. Like, it was weird again. And then I don't know if it happened when you were there, but were all of those conspiracy guys there?
Yep, they have signs, they have tapes, they have. You know who I went with? Heather Gersten from radio.
No way,
Remember Heather Gersten? Yeah, we went together on a morning radio trip. But anyway, go ahead.
So they were there talking about. Now these guys have published books. They have evidence. They give a very compelling argument about the conspiracy behind it, about how there were more bullets found than Lee Harvey Oswald could have fired, that there was more than 3 bullets, that there were ricochets into the bridge abutment, and that it would have been easier for him to take a head-on shot before they took the corner and then took the shot almost as if JFK was like, they go into this whole thing. And I was like, between that and the Kevin Costner movie, I was like, you might be swaying me. Like, they make some compelling arguments.
Yeah. I think I could answer it this way and say that the stuff that thrills and excites me tends to more be on the, I would say, spiritual side of the ledger.
Gotcha.
Those are the questions that excite me. So I'm kind of like you in terms of human beings. I feel like most of those conspiracies, like most agencies don't know what the other one's doing. And it would take so much coordination to do something like that.
Well, like the people that believe 9/11 was an inside job, right? And it's like, to pull something like that off, I just have a really hard time imagining enough people being willing to go in on it and that it never got out.
Right.
Because something like that just always gets out.
Right. And to answer your question, that's a great example. If there was a discussion going on about 9/11 and if it was an inside job or not, I would walk out of that room, but I would run into the room that talked about anyone who was a victim of 9/11 maybe contacting their loved ones from the other side now. That room I'd stay in for 5 hours.
Yeah.
You with me? So that's where I stand.
Yeah. Well, I think, maybe for you and I think for a lot of people, the conspiracies that you're talking about also lend themselves to answering life questions about what happens after we die.
Definitely.
Which is the oldest question in humanity, and the question that, no disrespect to anyone's organized religion, but at the end of the day, none of us really know.
True.
One of the only people that I know of that has any kind of compelling argument for me is Tommy Vext, because he died and was brought back to life. And he had a death experience. And we talked about it. He was on episode 3 of the podcast, and we talked about it a little bit. And it's like, I don't know if I know anyone else that actually died besides Nikki Sixx, that was declared dead and came back. Yeah. Those people, I'll sit down and listen, because it's like, I can't tell you you're wrong. I didn't die.
You're right. NDEs, as we call them in the paranormal biz.
Of course you have an acronym for them.
I have a book of them. I have a couple books on NDEs. Fascinating. They've done scientific studies, skeptics, doctors, and they've actually done things as benign as like put something on the roof of the lights above their operating theater. And when someone claims a near-death experience, they've tested them, and the people and supposedly in some of these studies, the people passed. Oh, you had a tic-tac-toe board up there and there were 2 X's, and where only you could see if you were floating above it. I mean, it's really stunning.
Or how they've weighed a human body and then weighed it, like the weight of your soul, that what is it, like
0.6 ounces or something?
Yeah, that it like has an actual measurable weight.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is interesting.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's Kevin Burns, the producer who hired me, who just passed away, unfortunately. I was crushed. But he was one day, we were talking about Oak Island, and he did Ancient Aliens. He created Ancient Aliens, that show, and he created The Curse of Oak Island. He's this mad genius, and he just goes like, one day we were doing something, and he just goes like, well, both these shows are about the search for God. You know that, right? It's not just about treasure, and it's not just about talking about aliens. It's the search for God. It's the search for meaning. People searching, and I was like, wow, he's right. to your point. It's like we're looking for answers.
Yeah.
And as I said in your podcast, if that's true, what else could be true?
So Terrence said Leon Wilkeson from Leonard Skinner that was in the plane crash in 77 was dead for 2 minutes, came back. Gary Rosington of Skinner was dead for 1 minute and saw his own body, he said.
Yes. Yes, that's a really common thing. They see themselves getting worked on. They can tell the medical professionals what they did medically. Bob Woodward, I think, the journalist, not Woodward and Bernstein, but there's a young journalist.
He was the one that got hit by the IED when he was in bed
Yes,
with troops overseas.
correct. Thank you. And he saw the medics working on him from down the street. He was like, I floated out of my body. He had an NDE, and he told the medics, the Army medics, like, here's what you did to me. Here's what you said. And they're like, dude, you were dead. He had a headache. His head got blown up.
Yeah, he has a foundation that helps injured veterans. And
look up his NDE. It's incredible.
If you look at, they had to like put a metal plate in his head because he lost part of his skull. His injuries were horrific.
That's right. And he watched the guys working on him. Incredible.
So it's like, how do you tell that guy he's wrong?
Well,
did you see Soul, the Pixar movie? The
no,
brand new one?
I did not.
It's fantastic.
Is it? I gotta
One
check.
thing that's really crazy is that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do the score.
Wow.
So
Trent Reznor for Pixar. Did you ever think you'd
that's
live
what I
to
was
see
gonna
that
say.
day?
So go 1994. I Want to Fuck You Like an Animal. 2020 Disney Pixar film. Like
amazing.
It's
amazing.
unbelievable, but the movie, first of all, is beautiful. Like the animation on it is beautiful, but it deals with what we're talking about, is that where the person's spirit goes, and then like fighting to get back into your body. Like, I'm not giving spoiler alerts away, but if you have Disney Plus and you haven't watched Soul, it's fantastic. It's all about love of music as well. But the way that the animators kind of imagined what these beings, these energy beings in the other world might possibly look like in order to animate them. Some of them look like Picasso drawings in this really weird way. It's beautifully animated. And the fact that Trent Reznor did the score is crazy, but that movie deals with what we're talking about. Gina says, Soul was excellent. Eric says it was awesome. I need to watch that movie, says Brianna. Sean keeping us up to date with the Bruins, said overtime win with 10.9 seconds. Fantastic. Woo! Eric said kids loved it. Shannon says movie was great. Eric said it's all about jazz music, which is great. So it's really cool. And I think just because of exactly what kind of we're talking about, I think even though like you're a grown ass man, that you could watch a cartoon like without kids around. And I think you would really like that one because it's just really, it's really interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, I do that podcast with Tony Arkin. We review movies that are paranormally themed. I'm going to put that in the list, and we're going to review it.
I would 100% put it on the list.
Love it.
So that was one of the things that we talked about. Tyler Connolly from Theory of a Dead Man, who's on the podcast this week, he's got a podcast that he calls Band Meeting with Dave, one of the other guys in the band, and they interview fellow musicians and stuff. But it's really interesting, people that are getting into podcasts and like the vein. So you've done like Monsterland stuff. So talk about, because you talked about it a little bit in the podcast, in our podcast interview, but talk about this podcast, this Rated P for Paranormal podcast that you guys do, and how you take a movie and kind of analyze the theme of the movie.
Yeah, it's simple. It's me and Tony Arkin, Alan Arkin's son, the famous actor Alan Arkin.
Who I love.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he's just like his dad. He's hilarious. Tony's hilarious. And so Tony's my movie expert. He grew up from his conscious memory till, now he grew up on film sets. He's a director, editor. He grew up going to all those movies with his dad. He knows movies better than anyone I know. It's like you with music. Like that's his thing. So what we do, and since I'm kind of into paranormal stuff and he is too, we take a film. So last week we did a movie, for example, that's on Amazon Prime called The Vast of Night. And it's a great new movie, and it's about a UFO sighting in a small town. So the first half of the episode, we'll talk about UFO sightings in small towns and the historical actual cases that this movie is loosely based on. And then the second half of the podcast, we talk about the movie, review it like a movie review podcast. And what's funny, Carrie, is we keep coming back to the same thing. We go, it's either we love the paranormal representation in the film and then kind of hated it as a film, or we love it as a film, but the paranormal stuff was kind of lame. It's very few times that we've gone like, paranormally, it was awesome. They did a great job, and the movie's great. It's like one usually is suffering.
Right.
So we've only found a few that we're like wicked thrilled about. And actually, this was one of them, this Vast of Night. We both loved it. So we will definitely put that on that's a great one. We haven't done an animated film yet.
Yeah,
That's great.
It's beautifully done. The animation's amazing. Jamie Foxx plays the star character. Tina Fey is the female lead, or she's not really female, like whatever this spirit or being thing
That's
is.
awesome.
But it's really, really cool. Somebody's asking, do you ever cover NDEs on the podcast? Like, is there a podcast for just near-death experiences? That would be cool.
Probably. I would almost guarantee if it's not just about that, there's so many paranormal podcasts out there that I'm sure that's covered a lot. But we would have to find a TV show or movie that dealt with NDEs, and then we would do that. Absolutely. Everything's open. Anything we can find that deals in this stuff, we do it. Some classics. This week we're doing Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we go back to classics and we do new ones. We do a lot of streaming. There's a lot of streaming paranormal content right now, so we're trying to like run through those too, because that's what people are into.
Can you guys Google this for me quick if you're here in the war room with Matty Blake and I, because I can't, shame on me for not remembering. Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Stone Sour is getting ready to write his 5th book this year.
Oh my God.
He's a prolific writer. He's an amazing wordsmith. Like, he's able, like, you know, think of what you want to think of him with the mask on stage with Slipknot, but he has this way, and one of Corey's books, and I can't remember the name of it, is all about these crazy ghost sightings and things that he experienced as a kid.
Oh my God.
And this book is fantastic. So can one of you guys Google the name of this book, because I want to make sure that I'm promoting it properly. He gave me a copy of it, and a whole chapter in this book is about how him and some of his friends broke into this house deep in the woods that everybody says was haunted and nobody lived there anymore. And like the staircases were all broken. It scared the shit out of me because he talked about like something trapping him. Like this really happened to him when he was a kid, and like trapped him in this house, and all this crazy weird shit happened. And it's Corey talking about how this affected him. Like this really happened to him.
Yeah.
And let's see, I'm waiting for somebody to comment on it. Ed says, what are your thoughts on the movie Paranormal Activity? Penny says Fire in the Sky was great. Brianna says a funny thing happened on the way to heaven, or how I made peace with the paranormal and stigmatized zealots and cynics in the process. That's the name of the book.
Holy shit. I got to read that book.
Yeah. It's, I mean,
what a great title.
Not only because you just love this kind of stuff, but because you love music.
Yes.
That knowing that this is Corey writing this book.
Yes. Good for him.
It's really, really interesting.
That's amazing. Oh my God, I got to read that book. That's like right up my alley.
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity I thought was a blast. I loved it at the time. I haven't seen it since it came out. It probably warrants a rewatch. It seemed very exciting at the time because it was one of those first movies to kind of use that style.
Yeah.
Of a home security, found footage type of thing. Not found footage, but home security, like these type of cameras.
Right.
So it was very exciting at the time, and I thought they did a great job. There were some great jump scares. A lot of fun. That movie was a lot of fun. But to your point about Corey, back to him, I actually did some research on, and we did episodes on my old podcast, The Artist. We called it, just because it sounded good, The Artist Alien Connection, but it's truly The Artist Paranormal Connection. And there is a long lineage of musicians and artists who claim paranormal activity. It's almost seems like more do than don't. So there's something about that side of the brain that seems
well, that's what
open.
I was going to ask. So do you think that the creative so they say it's the same, comes up on my podcast all the time, that it's the same part of the brain that masters language and mathematics is what also makes you have musical ability. So do you think that there's a certain part of the brain that's either open, that they're using a part of the brain the rest of us don't? like the books that I've been reading that I've referenced, called A Discovery of Witches.
Oh, by the way, I saw, since you mentioned it, I've seen it on TV, that blonde lady. Oh my God. Whew. The blonde lady, she's like the blonde on the show Discovery of Witches. There's like the vampire guy and the blonde lady. She's like the witch, I think.
Yeah, she's the witch.
Ooh,
yeah, well, Matthew Good, the vampire, is
okay.
Nothing to shake a stick at. Anyway, in this trilogy of books that's based on real historical stuff woven in with the vampires, demons, and witches, demons, as they are described in this book and on this television show that's on Sundance, demons are people, they're supernatural creatures that ride the line between brilliance and madness. That the demons are the creatives.
Yeah.
So you're either this brilliant kind of artist where you're riding that crazy line a little bit, right? Like a Jimi Hendrix would have been a demon because you're outlandish with this amazing talent, but like Jimmy Page with all of his extra, like you could do podcast episodes just about Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Because he's so into the occult.
Yeah.
And then when they cross the line into the crazy, like that's the theory behind demons in this trilogy of books.
That's fascinating. I think yes, that creative side of the brain seems opened or attuned to these things. Also, there might be a little bit of it working the other way too, where whoever they are, aliens, spirits, whatever, use artists to do things. Like we found out a story, Elvis himself, who my dad described unknowing this whole thing that we're talking about. He's like, the guy was like an alien. Those are his words. He goes, when I grew up, there was, jocks, greasers, everything was segmented.
Nerds,
he goes,
like whatever.
The day, he goes, I remember it. It was like a day. Someone he appeared on Ed Sullivan. Someone had a portable 45 record player, brought it down to the playground. And he goes, and I watched greasers, nerds, all the different groups converge around this thing and listen to Hound Dog. And he goes, the next day, everyone had their hair slicked. Everyone wanted to be Elvis. We all came together around Elvis. He was like an alien. He was like superhuman. And we found out when Elvis was born, the doctor swore to this, both his parents did, a strange blue light was seen hovering over Elvis's house and cast a blue beam of light down onto where Elvis was born. That's according to the people that were there. And it goes on and on and on.
Well, that
John Lennon
into the whole thing about whether Elvis is still alive or not. Like maybe he just got beamed up to his home planet.
Beamed up. John Lennon saw a UFO and put it in a song. There's UFOs over New York, and I ain't too surprised. On and on and on. I can give you a million examples of it. So yeah, there's an artist connection to that stuff, and I'm still trying to. And not that I put myself in their class at all. But I'm not an engineer. I'm an artist on the artist side of things. Right. And I had a precognitive dream when I was a kid. Like I had a predictive dream. I dreamed something that came true, and it scared me so much that I actually kind of put all my books away at the time, and Bigfoot and all that stuff. It scared me. And so, yeah, I think us who are into this stuff tend to have that kind of wild side of our brain, and we're attuned to it for whatever reason. And then other people who are more practical minded don't see it.
Right. Yes. Well, they're the practical minded people that are always the ones that say, well, if Bigfoot's real, why don't we have video of them? Like
correct.
Why, like everybody has a high definition camera on their phone.
Right.
Why don't we have proof now? Like why hasn't it been proven?
Well, to that I would say, and what I say is we might already, because there is video evidence out there now.
Just that people write it off.
That is debated. It's debated. I'm not saying it's real, but you don't know what's real and what's not. And I feel like even if you did have a high def cell phone shot of a Bigfoot, there would be a segment of society that just went like, that's not real.
Well, technology makes it so easy to like put my head on a 19-year-old Britney Spears hot ass body and make it look like it could be real, even though we all know it's not.
Wait a second. Can you see my screensaver right now?
Hey.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, though. The Patterson-Gimlin film, and this ties back to, see how everything ties back together? The Zapruder film, the JFK film, is the most analyzed piece of footage ever.
Yeah.
Second to that is the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Which
that
is
famous
the
picture.
Sasquatch.
Right.
Right.
And it has not, people will tell you it has. I'm telling you, it has not. It has not been debunked. They've brought in History Channel, the one I work for, did a roundtable. They brought in Dr. Jeff Meldrum. They brought in these real incredibly intelligent people. He brought in a team of skeptic, video analysis people, primate experts. They studied this thing. They studied the musculature, and they said, I can't say it's a fake. I'm not going to say it's real, but I can't tell you that it's fake. It's yet to be debunked, and that thing has been studied more than anything. So we might already have the evidence. It's the Patterson-Gimlin film, but people just maybe don't believe it.
Yeah, it's really interesting and fascinating, and we touched on it on the podcast. If you haven't listened to Matty's episode yet, it's episode 33. It's up there now. You can totally check it out because we talk about a lot of this stuff. But one of the things that I think everyone has to admit is that everyone believes in something that can't be explained, right? You've got that grandmother or that old aunt that has that intuition that nobody can explain, or there's a thing that you have that you're superstitious about. I mean, growing up, there were people in my old Italian family that if you lost something, you say a prayer to St. Anthony and then you find it. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. Everybody has something that they believe in that is really hard to actually scientifically prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. Every
Really
organized religion requires a leap of literal faith to believe that. So how crazy are some of these stories? Because, you know, like, you can't say zombies aren't real and then celebrate Easter.
Right. That's right.
You know what
That's
I mean?
Right.
Like,
That's right.
it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Everybody has these things that they believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that your crazy ideas are the ones you choose to believe, but you can't call someone else's crazy because.
That's right. That's right. That never jived with me. Like, people who I knew were religious, you know, scoffing at my UFO stuff. And I'm like, wait a second. You know, the conversion of Paul at Damascus, the road to Damascus, when Paul, who was persecuting Christians, was converted to Christianity. If you the New Testament account is he sees a bright light come down out of the sky. It blinds him where he was blinded for days. They basically describe what is we now understand to be radiation poisoning. All his people got sick that were with him. This is in the Bible. They fall on the ground, and it's, according to this account, it's Jesus. And so Paul, who was Saul, becomes Paul. He became converted. And he said, you're going to stop killing Christians, and you're going to become one, and you're going to recruit them in my name. And he did, and he became St. Paul. So it's like, that's a freaking UFO story.
Right.
Right? Semantics. It's semantics, but it is.
Right.
So it's like people who I knew were Christian would be like, oh, you're talking about UFOs again? I'm like, dude, read your Bible.
Read the Bible? Yeah.
Read the New Testament, brother. So yeah, there's a lot of that. It's just semantics at a certain point.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting though. And like, one of the things that I loved about you, like, coming into work every day, like, people ask me all the time about, you know, what do you miss the most about AAF? And I think that you and I would have the exact same thing. I think anybody that worked there has the same answer, is you miss the people. You miss the people that you worked with, and that creative, open, completely spontaneous place that you would go every day, and that you never knew what I was going to walk in the room and say, and vice versa, or Mike Shue or Stiz or Hillman or LB or any of us, that we were in a place that we were literally white knuckling the roller coaster without a seatbelt on every day. And that creative environment, that spontaneity, that's what I miss the most.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, if you do what we do for a living, I guess it'd be analogous to, like, you know, having a gym to work out in. It's like every day is a show. And so, like, I felt like at the end of that 2 years, I'm surprised there's not Matty and Nick questions, by the way. I'm surprised people aren't hammering you with questions.
Some people are saying that they, you know, they miss you guys shower beers. A lot of people say shower beers.
It was like a mental workout every day, Carrie, right? Like, you know, and you're so sharp by the end of a week. Like, you're by Friday, you're firing on all cylinders. You do it 4 hours every day. And it's like, I do miss that. It's like a great mental workout, and that camaraderie, that everyone was a big personality, but we all fit somehow.
Everybody brought something different to the, but we were similar enough that we were all kind of in the room together.
Oh, and when we would have those moments when we did do something together on the air, those were, I just remember I can't think of an exact, but like you'd come in with me and Nick on a Thursday night on our last break,
Oh, and we would do
and we would
like
be
the things
crying
we'd find
laughing.
on our iPod,
Oh,
like the
yes, we did the
songs.
bit.
Yeah.
Yes, we did the bit. What's on your eye? And we would steal songs from and say, all right, here's what Carrie has on her eye. I just remember belly laughing
Oh
like on a
yeah.
Thursday or Friday night. Like, God, I do miss that. I do
Yeah.
miss that.
And it's one of those things where it's like you just can't replicate that. You
Nah.
know, it's what made it such a special place. And looking back, there was always that, even though people left and new people came in, there was always enough similarity that, like, anytime a new person came in, like, first of all, we hazed the shit out of them, but they always earned their place there and they always brought something new.
Yeah,
There was
yeah, yeah.
always a new skill set. There was always a new personality. I mean, even, somebody like Stiz, like
Yep.
this Chelsea hip hop kid from the hood found a way
So great.
to belong in this place. I mean, he knew. Or Josh Dolan is another example. Like
Yeah.
these weirdos, and I say that with all the love in the world,
Yeah.
guys. But these
Yeah.
weirdos, that just had the strangest personality traits and quirks, and yet fit into this weird puzzle.
We had a kid, remember Alan with the beard?
Yes.
This kid, Alan, he was one of our interns, and listeners of Matty Nick remember this, but I mean, probably like a third of our audience even got it. They're probably like, what the hell is this? But this kid was 21 years old and he dressed like a 1920s safari explorer with the safari khakis and like a big hat, and he had a full beard, and he was like a trivia expert. He loved comic books. He's like this weird 21-year-old. So we did a monthly bit with him, or a weekly bit, I guess. It was called the Alan Questions Project. And he fired shitty trivia questions at me and Nick on like Thursday nights. And I'm just like, that is just the type of person that only AAF seemed to provide. You know what I mean?
It was just, I mean, literally pretty much
awesome.
everybody that's here in the war room with us kind of fits into that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
We're a freak show.
yes,
It's
totally
a
freak show.
I remember Nick, actually, we were brainstorming names for that segment with Alan, and I'm like, Alan Questions Project, and Nick just goes, and just hangs his head. He's like, we have to. We have to.
It's such an awful pun that it's necessary. It's required.
We have to, don't we? I'm like, yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. And then, of course, there's a certain age group. Like Alan probably doesn't even know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Like Alan Parsons, like doesn't even know who that is.
Yeah. Which we were just like, all right, whatever. It amuses us.
Yeah, exactly. It was so good having you in the war room.
Oh God, thank you. This is look at him.
Come in.
Belly
Did you bring a drink in with you? Or are you having a cocktail
Well,
with us?
You might know my friends at Castle Island in Norwood, Mass.
Oh,
This
cheers.
little plug. Cheers to you. What do you got in there?
Vodka soda tonight out of my mug that I got.
That a girl.
Christmas.
You are the best auntie
Best
ever.
auntie ever. So
I bet you are. I know you are.
mhm.
All those kids love you.
So you got to come in the war room again. Everybody loved
All right.
it. It's same
All
like
right.
Carol goes spaz. Perfect example.
Oh, probably the ultimate, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who has gone full conspiracy on Instagram? If you've been watching his Instagram, like,
Has he really?
oh yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah. Political conspiracy, like he's
Oh, like QAnon stuff.
oh he's in. Yeah, he's all in.
All right. Well, occupy his time.
I was gonna say, like, you're nobody to criticize him.
What a weirdo. Let me tell you more about Oak Island.
One of the things that we always do here in the war room, and I wanted to point it out before I let you go, is when the war room started back in March, one of the things that I did every night was I would wear a different concert shirt. And I've got hundreds. Like, I never duplicated one, whatever. So I promised myself over the winter, because we're still kind of all locked in the house, that I was going to start going through my T-shirt collection, because it's shameful. The T-shirts.
You must have literally hundreds upon hundreds and upon
hundreds and hundreds. So I started digging out like crazy shirts, and I wanted to show you the one that I'm wearing tonight.
Oh my God. Wow.
So I've just been finding these like rando T-shirts, and I'm like, it's like, I can't get rid of it.
No, that one you cannot.
So old school.
That's amazing.
So good.
What did you think of the finale?
So
at the time, like, what was your thoughts?
At the time, in that moment, I was pissed. Looking back on it now, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
And I firmly believe, spoiler alert, that the ending was Tony's assassination.
Didn't someone admit that
The
recently?
director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't he admit it? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
There you
fully
go.
believe, talking about, putting music, right?
Oh
Like
my
an
God.
iconic song and like,
Oh my God.
but at the time, I was pissed. I hated the ending.
Sure. Yeah.
And looking back on it, especially for the pressure, right, that was on that show to end well. I mean, look at Dexter. They're bringing it back 10 years later because everybody was so pissed at how it ended, which they're filming in Massachusetts, by the way.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, they're filming it over at the movie theater over at the movie house over at Devon's, the big productions.
Oh, yeah.
They're filming it there.
New England Studios.
Yes.
I actually do when you go on their website, I do the virtual tour of New England Studios.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So, so there was so much pressure on The Sopranos to end because it was it went out on top. The show's ratings, it was getting like 20 million people a week watching this thing. And so for him to, is it David Chase?
Yes. Yeah, Chase. I think you're right.
For him to end the show in such a
gutsy, man,
controversial way and just to hold by it and to really make people kind of decide on their own what happened. I mean, he didn't comment on it for years. And
amazing.
Now I look back, if you go and watch it, and
it's so clear, isn't it now, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
You
can say that I'm wrong, but looking back on it now, I really do believe that that the guys that came into the diner killed Tony. And it's like I'm glad that I didn't, like, as flawed as he was as a character, I don't want to see Tony. Like, I don't want to see the 5 minutes after he gets shot.
Right.
With the kids covered in blood and Carmela freaking out and
like don't need it. And also I heard him defend it one time before he kind of admitted what it was. He said, "Look, this was a character study of a guy, right? And you wondering if they're there to kill him is his future. That's his future for the rest of his life.
For the rest of his life, yeah.
He's going to be thinking that same thing. So that's what I was showing in that moment. Whether he gets killed or not in that time is not important. It's like, this is what he has to live with.
This is his existence now, that he's looking over his shoulder for the rest of his life.
Yes,
even doing
that's
something
brilliant.
as basic as eating at a diner with his family.
Right. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome shirt. You got to keep that.
Yeah, I'm keeping it. But so it's one of the things we do in the war room is we bust out old, like, cool vintage T-shirts. I should have told you that so you could have worn.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I have some good old concert ones I could have brought out.
I got like 10 Black Crow shirts. I'm sure you do too.
I do. Yeah, I've got a few. It's my fault for being late.
It's okay. You can't compete with yourself on
I know.
Like, I understand that you don't want to screw up a good thing with the guys from Oak Island. Like, you don't want to lose that gig, man. It's so perfect for you. You don't want to do anything to piss them off.
Amen. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I found my place.
Well, promise me that you'll come in the war room again.
If you'll have me, I would love it.
Yeah.
This is so much fun. I love it.
It is a lot of fun. And I love that everybody in the war room, like, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. We're talking about booze. We're talking about current events. We're talking about music or whatever. And then we have guests in. I just think it makes it so much fun that there's somebody else that's kind of enjoying the war room as much as we all do. So.
Well, we're lucky to have you, Carrie, because you provide this type of content and it's just awesome. So thank you.
Well, it was awesome to have you on the podcast. Episode 33, if you missed Matty Blake. If you go to that episode, in the show notes of that podcast episode are all of the links for everything that you're doing. All of your social media links, everything to do with Oak Island, drilling down, beyond Oak Island, your podcast, they're all linked in the episode so people can find you and be able to follow everything. Is Oak Island on Netflix? Somebody asked earlier, and I want to be able to put the plug in. Do you know?
Yes, but not all the seasons are streaming. I think they're like 1 through 4 right now, and we're in. You know what I mean? There's going to be 8, so you'll be a little behind, but you can get it. It's on your if you do have cable, you haven't cut the cord yet. It's on demand. Yeah, so you'll find it.
Yeah.
I think Hulu has it too. Maybe I should know that, huh? Did you like I did kind of purple for you tonight? Did you notice that? Okay.
I'll do my LB impression and be like, just Google it, kid. Just Google it.
That's it. That's it.
Man. All right, Matty.
All right.
You and I are going to end the show together because normally the guest comes on early and we say goodbye and then we talk about the person after they leave. But in this case, we're going to end the show together. So episode 34 of the podcast goes live at midnight. Tyler Connolly from Theory of a Dead Man. If you tuned in halfway through to Matty's interview, every episode of Cocktails in the War Room not only goes up on my YouTube channel, but also on mistresscarrie.com. And if you want to listen to it while you're driving to work tomorrow, the audio of the interview will be up as an after action report on the Mistress Carrie podcast tomorrow. So people can't get away from you, Matty.
Love you, Carrie. You're awesome.
I love you too. Good night, guys. I'll see you guys next week.
Bye.